Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back here to the Spring Burst from Z9 Gaming Series. It's day one of play. I'm Corbeck. Alongside me is Happy, and we just saw X Osiris deliver a little bit of a thrashing to Outlast, but we're moving on to our next match to see which one of the following two teams is going to have the opportunity. I guess we call it we call it an opportunity. The chance, the opportunity to play against X Osiris in our final match of the day, which is going to be a promotional match. So we're going to be seeing here on the stream Team SBL versus TEMPR White, and this is a pair of squads that well, there's some interesting things to be said here. Happy, TEMPR White probably the underdogs. SBL. They're probably favored, but we'll explain in a bit why that might be the case.
Yeah, I mean, SBL come into this as a team that, we all knew them. We knew them as Server Boys or Team CF Element 2, and, well, we knew them for good reason. They were a great team. They retained most of their roster.
Yeah.
Hat no longer in the lineup. Poison is in instead, and Poison, known as a very good team leader, very good at kind of taking a talented group of players and elevating them to that next level with solid leadership. They're still ironing out some of the kinks. They did lose a game in the quals, which was just a best of one, 7-4 to Coastal Gaming, who looked red hot that qualifier. So they're by no means perfect yet, but I do think this team, when they finally get running, could do outstanding things and kind of have some of that structure that it felt like maybe they were lacking at times when they showed some flaws over the course of their Element 2 season, specifically that loss to Karn in the playoffs, or Karn & Co., I guess better way of saying that, in the playoffs. At times, it felt like they didn't know quite what they wanted to do. So now having that sort of IGL to keep the team on one central focus could really help bring SBL to that next level. And hopefully we will see them reach that next level in this tournament.
Yeah, Poison is a amazing acquisition for that roster, I will add. But let's take a look here at TEMPR White. They had a straight win through the qualifier in bracket B of the second qual, so no joke there. Well earned. Some of these names probably familiar to you: Floof, Strixus, Hectic, Schmink, HUD. They're players who have been around in the scene. I mean, the standout here is probably Floofs, right? Who's a pretty competent player. You've seen him in Xenon before. I know that you've seen him probably over in Game Rogue. I know that he played on a squad in Element 1, so he's been around. And Schmink and Drixus, like, they're good anchors to this lineup as well. The reason I think we said that, yay, like, Team SBL is probably favored here is because when you compare these two rosters, obviously Team SBL is filled with some real veteran talent, and I think TEMPR White is a lot more players who, in true kind of underdog fashion, are trying to prove themselves here, Happy. They're trying to battle their way into a level of recognition or that they feel they deserve, kind of battle their way up the ladder.
There's a lot of promise on this team, right? They've got a very good central vision, a lot of individually talented players who, maybe just haven't gotten their shot. Floofs was a great player on, ironically, Osiris on Element 2, but got dropped midway through the season. Obviously, we just watched Osiris, so it'd be a good chance at maybe some revenge for him if they moved forward. And he was very solid on that team. A number of other very solid faces, but what map they're going to go to can change a lot very, very quickly. What side they'll start on could definitely change a lot for this team. Nighthaven Consulate taken out as the first two off the board. Very basic. Yeah, it's Oregon. Very basic. Still fits through the whole way, through the entire ban phase. We start off by banning the two newest maps added to the pool, and we slowly whittle out some of the more fun ones until we end at Oregon. And it's
what a
Oregon.
Delight. What a delight, Happy, has been placed upon our table for these two first matches. We're going from Clubhouse to Oregon. Oh, we are spoiled. They pamper us with these matches.
I didn't know. I thought we weren't. I didn't think we were casting qualifiers tonight. I thought these were the teams that had map pools. I didn't think.
Oregon? Us? No, you don't. Oh my God, come on.
You're too sweet. You're too nice.
It's just bread and butter. It's boring. It's as straightforward as it ever going to be. I think it's arguably even more straightforward than Clubhouse. So yeah. I don't think anything wild here. What I will say though is, like, in a broader context, I feel like that pretty heavily favors the team SBL, right? Like a team that
Mhm.
is already really good. They're gonna have the gun skill advantage, and I don't say that to detract from Temper White, but they're too veteran. They're too talented of players not to have the gun skill advantage. That's gonna serve them very, very well on these basic maps. I mean, there's something to be said, Happy, right, for a team that is newer or maybe getting their feet underneath them to, hey, you play basic maps, you ground yourself. But for a team like SBL NA, they're gonna run away. They're just gonna run away on it. They know
Mhm.
everything there is to know about Clubhouse. They could probably tell you the layout in their sleep.
Yeah, it's often referred to as the map where good teams go to die. We've
Mhm.
seen that over time, but I don't think that's the case for SBL. Of the maps that they won in the closed qualifier that they won in closed qual number 1, they lost one map on Cafe. Every other map they played, they won. Every other map they played was either Oregon or, take a guess.
Clubhouse?
Yeah, yes. They only played Oregon and Clubhouse outside of one game on Cafe, just in the closed qualifier. Open quals, I don't know. They could have played Consulate for all I know. I'm just looking at closed right now because
Mhm.
I needed some quick info. And they know the very basic maps. They've got a great
Yeah.
idea as to what to do on the very simple things, just like you had been saying. And it was kind of more of like a, oh, they're experienced, so they know what to do kind of a point, but there's a lot of evidence to actually back that up as well. They've won these maps consistently time and time again. Oregon, one of their better maps, quite frankly, as they were able to win this one pretty convincingly to even make their way into the tournament in the first place. Is in their last game, the best of 3, they won it 7-1 over a TSG team that took them to max OT on Clubhouse. So this is a very strong map for them. And when you look at TEMPR on the other side, yes, yeah, they could be as good on Oregon as they want. Against a team like SBL, on a map they are probably considered the best at of their pool, given the small sample size that we have. We weren't favoring them initially, and I don't think
Yeah.
their odds have gone up. I'll say that. I don't think their odds have gone up since we have ended the map veto and we're about to get into the game.
No, and I think one of the most interesting things we can probably draw out of this matchup is how SBL chooses to address their rounds against Temper White, because what we saw coming out of X Osiris, who were theoretically the favored team in that last matchup, was that really intense aggressiveness, right? Very up tempo right from the beginning. Now on the attacking side, I do believe that it's going to be SBL NA starting on the attack, so they're going to want to maybe show us some of that aggression as well. I feel like it's a pretty common trend amongst teams that feel confident or feel like that they are the better squad in the match. They'll usually come out swinging. It's almost like a shock and awe sort of thing. Happy you get in there, you get some early kills. You double tap 2 people through a hole in the wall
Mhm.
with the FN90 or whatever, and suddenly the tenor of the match sort of changes. It'll be interesting to see if they go about this cagey or if they go about this just kind of straight and to the point. And even more so if it's going to be predictive of a matchup between those two squads, right? And again, I don't want to
Mhm.
sell Temper White out of this. They've got the defense on Oregon here in a best of 1, Happy. That's a huge advantage. Oregon is a very
Mhm.
defensively sided map, but I do really want to see how SBL addresses this.
Yeah. In the time while you were talking, of course, while listening to you, I'm a
Yeah.
nice co-caster, but looked into what Temper White have done on this map, and it's safe to say that it's not nearly as convincing as SBL. The last time they played it was actually just a couple days ago in Outlast OCS, where they lost to Outlast Black. Ironically, Outlast, the organization, their second team playing in their
Right.
own league. They are a good team though, so it's not like a weird kind of I'm forgetting the word nepotism. That's not really how that works, but
Nepotism.
I guess with like an orgs, and you see what I'm going
I
for.
know what
But
you
yeah,
mean. I know what
they
you
earned
mean.
their spot in that league, and they earned their win over Temper White on this map in overtime by a score of 8-6. And yeah, that's not necessarily as convincing as CLB beating a lot of teams who got very far in
Right.
qualifiers. Outlast Black, formerly known as Gotham City Janitors, for those of you who knew them in that iteration. What I will say about that game, though, is that both teams were able to win 4 rounds on attack. So, Temper White know how to attack this map pretty well. If they can get 2, maybe like 3 God forbid, like 4 or more rounds. But if
Right.
they could just get like maybe that 2 or 3, you can feel pretty confident. You go into your defensive half again with that kind of riding that wave of momentum. You should be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, no, you should be. And just an interesting note on the bans there. Montaigne getting taken out alongside the Kaid.
Attackers need to
Some
locate
interesting
and defuse
choices
bombs.
right there. Obviously, the Kaid is to kind of deter specifically for this basement site. You think about hatches, right? That's where Kaid is going to be at his most impactful on this map. The Montaigne is a real interesting choice, and I'm not sure that it was the ban that needed to happen. So I wonder if Temper White kind of knows something that we don't about how SBL likes to play this, but we'll let it ride for now. We'll see how it goes. SBL doing a pretty standard sort of defensive setup here, by the looks of it. They're going to extend out into the elbow. They have chosen to take the Wamai instead of the Jaeger to help defend that elbow point, probably because it just gives them a little bit maybe added roaming potential there. If Spiff can continue to deploy those magnets in various places. Curious to see how much they're going to hold back in relative anchor spots from that one overlook we had. I think we saw Poison down there, appropriately playing on smoke, by the way, I will add. And then I think we saw Nick downstairs as well, still in the basement. So only a few bodies on the top floor here.
Yeah, just to touch on the Monty, I'll tell you something that I do know. It's that Poison loves playing Monty, and people on this site, on this map, especially on this basement site in particular, a lot of the time, or not a lot of the time, but sometimes, people who really enjoy playing Montaigne will run him to kind of walk at a player who's maybe top freeze in that area, or towards the middle of the tower stairs, right where Asian is. A lot of people like to counter this position by running a Monty, walking at them, and pushing them back. In this case, they burn a couple drones and push him back, but the player who's there is just meant to fall back really quickly, exactly like Asian did. You don't have to use the drones if you have a Monty walk at them, and there's no reason to stick around in that kind of a position with a Monty, full extended, walking right at you. So, good ban from TEMPR White to take that off the board for SBL, and in real time, as I'm explaining it, very nicely helping me out, kind of being a live example, taking control of that area for themselves. Thank you guys, that helped me a lot.
In real-time demonstration of your point right there, which is always nice.
Doesn't get much better than this.
It doesn't, no, and it looks like all 5 members now of the SBL side have kind of creeped back into the defensive site. They have given up a lot of ground here, but they've also burned a lot of time in doing that, and I think that's an important thing to remember there, compared perhaps to what we were seeing on our previous best of 1. Now with about 1:20 left, TEMPR White, they're going to have to face some pretty, I think, difficult decisions here about exactly how they want to address this defense, because as much progress as they have made in taking away space, Happy, I don't think they've necessarily kind of like quote unquote cracked it, right? They're still really strong defensive positions here. Look at Asian holding down in Harry Potter. I mean, you're gonna have to wheedle him out of there, and you are just running out of time. Every word that I'm saying is taking another second off the clock, and yeah, this is great. Get that clutch drone in there and start hacking, Happy, but it feels like maybe too little too late.
Might just be Asian, though, getting aggressive, and that's a really good way to keep going. However, it's traded out, and that's going to give TEMPR White a way back into this round, making it just a 4-on-4, spreading those defenders on site just a little bit more thin than they were just a couple moments ago. They may be able to catch Poison reinforcing, though, and as Floofs goes in, it's time to activate. He's got Case in hand, and they're catching them all in the smallest area ever. It was just a compressing movement, and everybody stuck inside laundry or just the B site, and it isn't going to go so well for SBL.
Wow, I'm actually surprised by that. I really thought that TEMPR White was going to have a lot harder time making that push. Honestly, Asian pushing out like that and getting caught out, like getting killed. I mean, this was a good effort here, right, to pick up the aggro kill. But imagine how differently this round would have played out if he hadn't have died right there and was still holding a position, anchoring in Harry Potter. You would not have seen the aggression coming in from that side of the point, it would have really kind of held a sustainable area versus what became a very quickly an unsustainable area right there at the end. So just goes to show you, I mean, how much one player, making one decision can kind of impact the entire course of a round. But they're going to go right back to the basement. I can't blame them for this. I just don't really see if they're bringing kind of a big adaptation to their playing style, or they're kind of just hoping that it'll work better this time around.
Yeah, probably just the latter. It doesn't seem like they've been changing too much up, so to say. I don't remember 100% who was on their team last round. That's on me. But still no large changes. We've still got Asian playing Fenrir. Still have Poison on Smoke. But they just need to start to use some of that utility a little bit later in the round to actually punish TEMPR for how long they're taking. Because last 30 seconds, with the kind of positions they were in, really shouldn't have looked that convincing for TEMPR White. But SBL just kind of fell off all the positions and then didn't really have any measures in place to counter TEMPR from walking in and taking advantage of the right angles. That was weird miscoordination from SBL. I'm not sure why they weren't ready for what they saw, considering there wasn't really anything else that could have happened. And for now, pretty much ready for what they're seeing is it's basically a carbon copy of the entries that TEMPR White made in the last round. Just try to get some early map control as you do attacking this site, and nothing too far out of the ordinary.
I mean, as much as, Team SBL is just going to run it back, I don't see any reason why TEMPR White shouldn't run it back too. They won. I mean, they won it in a very decisive fashion, if we're being honest. So go for it here and kind of apply this pressure directly to the forehead of Team SBL and see if you can kind of make the same breakthrough that you did. I mean, Asian was wandering out there for a second. He didn't get caught that time, but he was coming out of his hiding hole. And if Drixus had been half a step faster, he might have even been able to pick up the kill. Good addition to the Kiva barrier right there, by the way, to make this angle a little bit more difficult for the offense to play. And you can tell that Asian's hungry for that, right? Like, he wants the kill here. They lose the Dread Mine to that drone coming down the stairs, Rotero of HUD. But still, not an easy push here for HUD. And if Asian gets aggressive and swings this, he might be able to pick up the kill and maybe slow the roll of TEMPR White a little bit more. Just has to get out of dodge.
Similar to what he was doing last round, he's trying to actively threaten this attack from TEMPR White. Hold some control, swing something pretty aggressively, make it feel like they're not able to just walk forward, and he's doing a great job at that. That's wasting time. That's wasting, not man count yet, but it may be, should he find a kill. That's all he really needs to do to be super impactful here. Even without finding a kill, he's still wasting so much time, just like he was in the round before. And just like in that last round, it's still pretty late in TEMPR White yet to truly activate, but there's a good kill for Drix onto Asian.
Big kill right there. We've got about 25 seconds left, and will TEMPR White be able to pull off that kind of blitzkrieg that we saw last time? They're certainly debating it much longer this time. The main block is there. Spiff's going to take advantage of that hesitancy and pick up a kill of his own, so Schmitty is taken down. Here comes Floose. He'll find one, swings for a second, won't pick that up. Rice in the other direction, but it's immediately traded out by Drixus. HUD is just going to go ahead and slam that plant down. He's got covering fire. He's got Drixus on the long hallway, and he had Hectic on him immediately. The diffuser is planted, and that will change the tenor of this just a little bit. There's Drixus finding the kill onto Spiff. A 3v1 now here for the smoke, but keep in mind, two of the players from TEMPR White, a stiff freeze would do for them. Unfortunately, not able to find the stiff freeze there on Drixus. He won't find it again. He cannot land these SMG 11 shots, and Drixus will roll around the pillar and claim that final kill. Again, a really good attack there from TEMPR White, taking the death in stride of Schmitty and just pulling it through.
Poison with a little bit of a misplay there in the form of a misplace. HUD planting basically from what I thought was right in the middle of a smoke canister, but not at all. In fact, he was perfectly safe. He wasn't losing any health while that smoke canister was going off, and Poison misplacing that just a little bit too far, maybe too off to the side, I don't know, but just allowing that door plant to go down based on where that smoke canister was placed, on top of losing the freezer player, so you couldn't actively have anybody swinging that default plant spot. Two big misplays there from SBL. It feels so odd. I'm looking at the the outlines of the players, they're all in the same area for Team TEMPR White. We saw someone who was towards that laundry area, looking in that direction of E-Box, Pillar, and every single TEMPR White player was over there. SBL should be able to deal with that quite easily, but they're not. They're losing 1v1s, they're misplacing smoke canisters, they're not actively threatening anyone, covering for their planter, getting that plant down. It feels like they're a little off right now. I like this bomb site switch up because the basement's just not really working for them.
5 seconds to insertion.
I think this is a almost necessary choice, honestly, here
Yeah.
for Team SBL. There's no way you can go back to basement, because the depressing thing about that for the protective SBL is that neither of those defeats were close. Like, that didn't feel close, you know.
Yeah.
They got those health pools down pretty low, but it didn't feel close. It very much felt like TEMPR White had all the control in the world right there when they moved in on that final kind of 20 seconds. And yeah, rough opening for SBL, and a rough opening for us for talking them up, only for them to come out the door and fall a little flat here at the start of it all.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in myself. Kind of.
Yeah.
I felt like I was doubling down on this
I
TEMPR White.
am disappointed in myself, but
Oh,
it's,
come on. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed, and I was kind of talking about it like it was a foregone conclusion before the game. And I want to actively apologize to all the TEMPR White fans, or TEMPR White if you're listening back to this. I was not familiar with your game. I will say it. I will admit it. And
I
very
agree.
impressed by what I've been seeing so far, especially out of a player like Drix. I always knew he was very good mechanically, but he never felt like he was fully in the great position to see himself thrive and to really showcase that mechanical skill. This is that position. You've been putting him on Ash. You have him on the ARX of Nomad. It is an outstanding setup for Drix to thrive. He's already got 5 kills yet to die, and that's not to say that nobody else is playing well, and it's just Drix. Because the whole team is a unit, playing incredibly well so far, and taking a lot of time in these early rounds. Yet again, we don't really have too much to talk about until right now, as Floof stands outside of Trophy with someone on the other end of it, just outside of his reach, just on the other end of a very much unbreakable wall. That Spiff sitting just by the bear. But for now, it's just a stalemate as Hectic gets the first kill into Asian running around in the basement.
Asian's been having a rough go of it, honestly, here. I mean, he was in kind of a sacrificial position on the last 2 rounds, but on this round, just getting caught in a rotate right there. Good aggressive play here from Spiff, taking it right to the house, and he'll find HUD just waiting on the balcony. You want to escape? Look at that long bomb shot from Drixis coming off a big window. Schmitty now pushing in, and here's this kind of late round aggressive tempo, but instead SBL is eating it up this time. Good crossfires picking things off. There's Drixis getting involved, living up to the hype he just put on him right there. Happy as Hectic finds another kill. Now Nick, the only one left here at the top of White Stairs, will just walk in, and Drixis is waiting gun in hand, and TEMPR White are manhandling SBL in these first 3 rounds.
Yeah, they're just spreading out, trying to expand their domain as much as possible. That kind of strategy has grown in popularity a lot on the top floor. White Stairs, Big Window, Games Breach, and Trophy, all at some point used to the advantage of the attacker, at least attempted to use them to their own advantage, and for the most part, it was all working. TEMPR White looked like the handedly better team so far today, which is insane to think. Because SBL, we all thought were going to be the single-handedly dominant squad today on a map that they didn't lose over the course of the qualifier they played in. But you know, maybe they weren't playing anybody as good as good as this TEMPR White team. Maybe we've been sleeping on them. Maybe by subsequent, maybe Outlast Black are the best Oregon team in North America, and I just didn't know that yet. I don't know. But this has been outstanding on their attacking side, and I can see why they were able to do so well against that Outlast Black team on their attacking half. However, on the other side of that coin, they did struggle in their defenses. So it's not over for SBL just yet. They still have a way in.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb.
No, it's not over. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not over. Let's be honest, right? Like you're only 3 rounds into it. I mean, there's still plenty of game here. I think the more alarming aspect of it would be that you're 3-0 on an Oregon defense, right? Like that's the more worrying part of this. But there's still plenty of room, and you've only played basement and dorms, which are the 2 strongest through the site, so it's not like you got taken into, you know, kitchen early on and it went badly. It's just been a real failure, I think, to anticipate exactly how TEMPR White is going to execute, which is frustrating if you're SBL, because I think upstairs they were doing a better job of it and they were making the right reads, but then they just couldn't quite finish it off for whatever reason. They're switching some player positions around here, which I think might actually be a good idea. Nick is the one who's taking over the Fenrir duties. As you see, Asian has swapped to Legion. So a change in guns for both of them and a change in positioning, maybe trying to open it up so Asian can get a little bit better engagements, is not forced to kind of play that sort of threatening role around the stairs. Nick can do that, right? Like, you don't have to be an absolute fragger to hold that spot effectively. So maybe switching Asian over is opening up a gun that previously had been kept a little sedate.
And you're talking about the guns, talking about the individuals on this team. To think that they're struggling on the execution with a team of players like Rice, Asian, Spiff. Like, these are players who've been in the NAL. Rice went to a major. Spiff got top 4 at Invite. Like, they shouldn't be struggling in the execution, but they have been so far. And right now, they're getting completely caught out. TEMPR White spots the gap towards the back side of the defense and chooses to penetrate immediately. They get the opening kill, however, that's responded to quickly in kind as HUD goes down and Floof's fully taken out of the picture, now just left in a 4-on-4, and that decision to kind of try and circumvent the roam can really start to bite you in the butt here as those players start to come from behind, but they don't actually. They all just rotate back to site and play out of laundry, except for Rice, who's currently sitting in freezer, waiting for some kind of plan attempt to go down. TEMPR White, they've taken the control that they were looking for. That's a good start, but yet to really start to get that case down, and still with a lot to deal with. But Drix playing Nomad for flank watch and watching the flank with his gun as well, gives his team a man advantage right before the execute.
Still 3 members of SBL alive, though, and that's a, you know, significant amount of firepower that can be brought to bear here. But again, look at this late round execution and plant. Rice has a good angle on this. They don't know that Rice is there. What a good nitro cell to shut HUD down on the plant. And here comes the counterattack from SBL, and that has absolutely shut down TEMPR White. Sure, Schmitty will get a clap back in here. Gosh. Maybe not. Schmitty with another. He's got a triple kill. You can't find Rice, though. Rice, the absolute savior there on the mute, playing out of freezer. They neglected that freezer position, and they were severely punished for it.
And that was one of the first things they dealt with last time they attacked that basement objective. And that was exactly why they were able to get that plant down. This time they tried to substitute it with just an OSA shield. Oh, we don't have to kill the guy in freezer if he can't shoot at me. Unfortunately, the guy in freezer has the biggest explosive in the game, so he can still kill you even without having to shoot at you in the first place. A valiant effort by Schmink to get back into that round. However, SBL able to get back on the board because that freezer position never dealt with, and SBL absolutely showing, yes, this may not be our best day ever. However, you need to be thorough. You cannot let our big anchor position that deals with your plant spot stay alive without getting punished for it.
It's true. I mean, it's true. That was the key issue right there. And hey, a basic mistake. I mean, I think maybe they were getting a little too excited. Like, truthfully, I'm not a psychology person, but I kind of feel like that is what happened right there. And I think they really probably thought they had SBL more on the ropes than they did. Like, yeah, okay, you've got them 3-1, like 3-0. You're definitely beating them up, but you cannot count them done. You know, they're not broken by any stretch of the word. You can't leave defenders in really solid defensive positions. And I mean, you know, even if they didn't know that he was there, like, when they were planting, you're just like looking across and he's standing in the doorway of freezer. He like triple checked that door before he threw that C4. Anyway, all right, new round, round 5. We're moving on. We could dwell on that for a while, but there's no point. We're looking now at a Dorms defense here. We're back up to that site. Finally, the win on basement was coming through. The role switching kind of changing again. Everybody's back around. Nick is on the Legion again. Asian is now playing mute this time. Rice is over to the Fenrir, and Floofs is waiting in the respawn room.
Good kill for Nick early on. I'd imagine that's the earliest first pick that we've seen pretty much all day. Yeah, we have not seen many early kills, to say the least. That's what I was gonna, if you threw it to me soon enough, I was gonna mention, like, when you were like, oh, I'm dwelling on the last round, like, oh, go ahead. We don't usually see things until the last 30 seconds. It feels like 2020. Yeah, it's a slow burn of a game between these two. Very stark contrast to the last one we were on, where Osiris would try and make something happen in the first 15 seconds. It was like a kid who just couldn't sit still last map, but still so far this round, not too much further action. Very typical setup by SBL, and TEMPR White yet again trying to expand their domain and take as many different angles in their own favor as possible. However, having a man disadvantage makes that significantly harder. You lose a lot of that leverage you could have had, and losing another player is going to make it only worse. Drix goes down, Nick with another kill. It's just not the right round for TEMPR White. SBL started off a little weak, but they have come back with 2 rounds in a row and a flawless in round number 5 to make things all the better out of their own situation.
Interesting. I
Astute observation there, Tristan.
Yeah. Hold on.
Oh.
I was building. I gotta go back to the psychology book because I don't have stats to talk about.
Okay.
But
Okay,
I kind of do wonder, is this like in a like the cliche, like they drink the magic potion and then somebody's like, it's just water, and then they lose like they lose the plot, like their confidence is punctured, you know what I mean? Like, is that's what happened? TEMPR White won those rounds and then they lose the first one and suddenly it's like, oh no, we are mortal, we can't be beaten, and it brings them kind of crashing back down to earth, because I mean that last round was ugly. Like, that was an ugly round for TEMPR White. It was a slow build up again, which, like you said, that's kind of been the pacing here, but when Team SBL decided to go for it, they went hard, and I feel like TEMPR White had no good answer for it. Let's see what SBL does moving into this round. Whether they continue to try and maintain those aggressive patterns, I think, is what I'm going to really be watching out for, because I feel like when they are the ones who are being offensive, as ironic as that is, given what side they're on, when they are the ones that are being offensive, it is paying dividends, right? When they get hyper aggro like that.
Seems to be working out quite well, and part of the problem through those first couple of rounds is it felt like they were being a little too stagnant. They were just kind of contently sitting in the bomb site, contently holding the area they had, not challenging TEMPR White too early, and then TEMPR White would play the 5v5s really well later on. So, good solution, don't let them have a 5v5 later on. Get aggressive when you think you have the opportunities to. Obviously not get over aggressive, because that's what TEMPR White are prepared for. Akin to Outlast, who we watched last game, they're spending the first minute or two of the rounds not making a lot of progress, but the trade-off with that is, yes, you don't make that much progress, but you're prepared for any overt aggression. Jump outs, run outs, aggro swings that the defense can go for, and that's exactly what TEMPR are well prepared for. So, good on SBL to not try and do too much of that early, not force that aggression too fast. However, wait until it's more well-timed.
Early shots coming in right there. Rice still in, and Asian, though, will find the first pick, and it's Floofs who's taken down. Spiff immediately jumping on the back of that will find Schmitty. This is what I'm talking about here. This aggression paying off. Look at Spiff's positioning there in the corner of the screen you saw just a second ago. He's really pushed out, looking for those kills, absolutely hunting for them. Rice now playing a little bit more consciously here in the attic, but he's just kind of waiting for Drixis to come to him. Drixis has plenty of charges in the launcher. Yeah, there you go. First one's out. That's going to force movement here from Rice. But of course, there's an F-Dot waiting for him as well. So both utilities going off right there, neither providing their owner with significant advantage. And then Hectic is caught by Spiff. Spiff on a triple kill. He just keeps killing. And now Drixis is left alone here in the bottom of Big Tower to think about what's happened to the rest of his team. And he'll join them shortly. He doesn't have to grieve for very long there. Asian puts him down.
Spiff with a huge round. The gun's starting to come back alive for SBL, but specifically, they're just getting active. It's not that the guns weren't alive before, it's that they weren't activating at the right times. This time, they're waiting until TEMPR White are starting to take some of that map control and then challenging them in the process. They're not getting over-aggressive, trying to overstep their boundaries. they're waiting until TEMPR White kind of steps into those, the kind of contested boundaries. It's like trench warfare. The other guys are going to try and hop out of their trench first, so you just wait for them to do that. And in this case, not a perfect analogy, because in trench warfare, it's kind of like both sides can kind of just wait. There's not too much happening, but in this case, the attackers have to eventually make the move forward. So when they're starting to make the move forward, catch them at their most vulnerable. That's all SBL started to do, and it started to look really good. However, once they figure their defensive side out, they get 3 rounds in a row, now they got to swap back to the attacking side. So hopefully they can get off to a little bit hotter of a start and not need to make those adaptations, not need to get 3 rounds in a row to save their butts. But, still...
They could do it.
Yeah, they could easily do it. Yeah,
they could do it. We've just
locate a
seen
bomb
that
and defuse
demonstrated. They could do it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, because the guns were definitely heating up. I think you said as much as well. SBL was really feeling much better, more confident in the gunplay in those last couple of rounds right there. So it'll be interesting to see how they transfer that over to this attack, right? Because something that I was talking about right at the outset of this was, how is SBL going to approach this map? We saw them playing, I would say, a very sort of solid early defense. It wasn't paying off. They decided that they were going to pick up the tempo, and that worked a lot better. But does that have a transitive property, right? Like, it can be a little bit different when you're going into the Oregon defense. Now, are you able to maintain that high of a tempo going into a site like basement, or are you going to get punished?
Attackers have located a bomb.
and still plenty of time left in round number 7, the very first attacking round for SBL. Very similar to what we saw TEMPR White do on their attacks, and very similar to what we saw SBL do on their defenses coming out from TEMPR White. They're just kind of putting one player towards the top of tower stairs to shoot as many drones as he can and then fall back. In this case, 3 are gone from the SBL side, which honestly isn't too bad. Yeah, maybe you might not be happy that you've lost that many, or really any at all, in the process of clearing a roam that really didn't exist outside of one guy sitting on the top of tower stairs. But still, you can't complain about still having that many drones alive, and you still have a lot of stills in that sentence. A lot of them. But yeah, you got a lot of time left to work with as SBL, and they can use that however they so choose, get those patches hard breached and whatnot with the Habana you have on board. Still a pretty basic Oregon basement attack. Just, checking the boxes on the attack that you've known how to do for many, many years now.
Yeah, piece by piece, just getting picked away, right? We've got a checklist, some fundamentals. This is something that we talked about at the start of this match, too, is that Team SBL, they know what you need to do. They know the defenses. They know the order in which things must be taken care of. They do get poisoned down, but they probably won't be able to finish off the kill right there. Schmitty holding that Harry Potter spot there, firing up the stairs, just deterring the members of SBL from continuing their push as Poison is resurrected. They still have to get around that smoke, and now we're getting to a situation where TEMPR White kind of excelled. Will they be able to repeat that here as Team SBL? The smoke canisters coming out right there, both of them putting good shutdowns on various defensive positions. Spiff firing out, just gathering as much intelligence as possible, keeping Schmitty guessing. 15 seconds left in the round. The swing coming out. Spiff finds it. Rice the next, but HUD is there, clapping back almost immediately. Rice gets Rice and Poison are both dropped as HUD continues. They find that kill. Just Nick standing in the hallway. That's going to leave just one member there of the attacking side, and an ugly end of the round there for SBL.
Yeah, same issue that TEMPR White ran into, but the adaptation that we saw SBL make as their half went on, TEMPR White do it from the start. They're waiting until SBL were actively trying to take map control, and then trying to, as my coach friend Yali put it, push it back in their face, which is to say, when they start to get aggressive, swing them, take the fights when they're not necessarily in the most comfortable position for it. Because when you think about that kind of a fight, if you're walking down blue stairs and then you get swung on, well, that's not super comfortable from your point of view. And you know what makes that even less comfortable? A Fenrir. I want to say I heard the Fenrir mine sound effect about 15 times in 15 seconds. And that's so good of an operator, not just because, he's good for giving yourselves the info as to when they're going through certain angles that maybe you weren't expecting, so you don't get lurked on and flanked. but also, when you know where they're going to come from, you can swing off of that. They can't see. You have the advantage because they're walking forward in a little bit of an awkward spot, especially down a staircase. It's such a good plan, and you add Fenrir in there, and it feels almost impossible to win against. And I guess in the end it was.
10 seconds left.
It was, yeah. You know, SBL putting themselves in that time crunch, and it's a hard position to be in. It's not atypical, right, for that particular bunker site to see an attack really go off in the last like 30 seconds or so. But it's a challenge in and of itself to be able to successfully execute in a situation like that. Interesting defense, by the way. I was just going to add TEMPR White bringing the Mira and the castle, so they're actually walling off that entrance out of attic into sort of the preliminary room there of games. That's an interesting choice. I've not seen a team kind of prep it this way in a long time, if ever. We kind of see how they want to play around that. I mean, they're already going to get it spoiled just a little bit because Asian is going to go ahead and blow one of those panels. But Drix is here looking for an opportunistic kill from Big Tower, and he'll find it. Asian just standing on the roof. They did not expect that coming, and that's just a bog standard intelligence failure right there from the members of Team SBL.
Things already looked pretty rough to start on the attacking side, and you know what's going to slow the attacks even more is when you lose the big entry you have. You still do have Spiff on Finka. That'll definitely help reduce that. And now that Rice has put a lot of his air jabs down, he can kind of fulfill that role too. A little bit of a util light kind of attacking side here between, again, the Finka, the Nomad, once you put the air jabs down, can pretty much do whatever she wants. And then once Buck is, once Nick as Buck is able to open up the angles he wants, well, he doesn't have too much to do either. For now, though, he's got to lock in because there's a very good likelihood that he gets swung on this doorway. He has some kind of information on it, though, and it's time to start getting active. Flashbang goes out, and he can hear him running away. He's ran towards meeting, but Spiff ready for that. Spiff even ready for the swing from the hatch. A great double kill. And just like that, it all flips on its head, and it's Spiff giving his team a man advantage with just over a minute.
Really well played right there by SBL. Again, we've used the concept of hurting a couple of times here, but that's essentially what they did. Just a good read, the flash grenade pressure by Nick there, and you saw the sudden follow-up by Spiff, who was waiting for it on the other side. Rice now pushing the top of White Stairs. What a shot by Rice on the Hectic. I couldn't even see it. My old eyes can't keep up with these young guns. Floof's there, walking in now, just bold face across the bomb site. Not a lot of good choices remaining, trying to trick the drones essentially to make this work. The nitro cell getting stuck in the ceiling and destroyed. It's a valuable piece of util. It's dropped right there. The grenade comes sailing in right now, forces Floofs out of position and brings him down. Schmitty valiantly trying to defend this one out of kids, but this is a unpleasant position to be in, and Rice will be the one who swings and finishes it off. And a brutal end to the round right there. SBL showing some heat. I mean, they're still in this.
It was a huge play from Spiff inside of meeting to be ready for the swing from that hatch. You can tell that he saw that hatch open and had already been thinking about it once he got the call that somebody was inside of green and he might need to play that pinch, help that teammate, hold his, hold the runaway of that one player. And then he's just so ready for that exact trade. SBL ready for everything the TEMPR were ready for. Or not the TEMPR were ready for, but the TEMPR tried to pull out. And on top of that, SBL timed it all perfectly. That final collapse into the site. Those 3-2-1 swings. The jump in from double window, met with by a swing from the player in dorms. Even in a 3-on-1, they are making sure they're thorough in their timings and their team play. And that is an outstanding thing to see from a team like this, who hasn't been together as a full 5-man for a long time. And you may think, oh, they've been together a while, so it's kind of not that important. Yes, but no, because Poison joined, and Poison is known to be a big leader. So when you change your kind of leadership system, it's very good to see that you're getting adapted to it very quickly.
Yeah, that is true, and a sort of systematic destruction, really, of all the defensive positions that TEMPR White was holding, except, of course, for Big Tower. But other than that, I mean, it was just really good flushing those defenders out and having the capability to follow up on it. And hey, speaking of Big Tower, look who's back. Just waiting up here is Drixus. That's good. He's waiting. his opportunity may come because I don't know how well they drone this out. Spiff is just kind of going to walk up to that window and I guess pray that there's nobody there. And well, he'll fake open it a little bit, but the hold is still on. And I think is that just meant to hold the attention of Drix? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the whole plan is on that, if I'm being completely honest with you. An interesting little opening maneuver there from Team SBL.
Well, nobody's died yet, so I guess, you know, it is what it is. In spite of some mistakes, Nick very ready for the exact same thing that happened last round. Fortunately, HUD not going to make that same mistake trying to walk in on him inside the kitchen. Just, you know, give him some space. And for now, TEMPR White just doing exactly that, giving SBL much more space, because SBL weren't necessarily going so quick on their attack of the basement. So you start to realize, like, hey, why do we bother, like, getting so aggressive, trying to hold so much space very far away from the site? Just kind of let them do their thing, and as they get closer, really start to make it actively threatening. No Fenrir in this round, so you may struggle a little bit more in some of those individual fights. However, Floofs is going to make things pretty well. For the second round in a row, it's an opening pick for TEMPR White off of that C4 from the Mira.
Floofs here holding tight on the wall as Asians just sort of roaming around, checking to make sure that there's nobody else down here. I don't think there is. The defenders are all on the top floor now as here comes Nick again, and he's been pretty great on this buck of just kind of putting a lot of pressure on the defenders. He opens up the angle right there. Exactly what I'm talking about. Hectic getting picked off from below. Spiff jumping in on the action as well. Will find Drixus. And that is a good setup here for the final part of this push here from Team SBL. They're doing such a good job in these last 2 rounds of rooting these defenders out of their positions. There really is nowhere that feels particularly comfortable right now for TEMPR White. Asian swinging off a closet wall, looking for an opportunistic pickup, won't find it. Schmitty's blind and then cut down by Spiff. Spiff again, finding another one, nearly gets it, drops in with the pistol, and finishes off Floofs, and Spiff is just dominating this lobby.
Spiff is dominating today. Everybody else stepping in where they need to, but yeah, Spiff has just been having an outstanding game. That is not the only thing, by any means, that SBL have been doing well today. And they've started to show that no matter how aggressive you are at the start of the round, they'll still be able to put you in that same kind of choked out position inside of the site if you give them too much space. But then if you get aggressive, they'll be as well adjusted as they possibly can to what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. They'll play off of each other in those roam clears like they did in round 8. And then in round 9, they didn't have to clear much, so they said, all right, awesome. We'll take everything we can. Games, trophy, white stairs, big window, all the angles, as many as we can have control over. And again, I mentioned a little earlier when TEMPR White did it, that attack has been growing in popularity. One of the weaknesses is that if you lose one isolated player somewhere, that could turn into a big gap in your attack and you could lose a very important point. But SBL at all points were staying gun up, ready for whatever was coming out of TEMPR. Outstandingly well planned from them.
Attackers are moving out to locate a
Indeed,
bomb and defuse.
it was outstandingly well planned. You look too at the way that SBL is coming about attacking this basement site again. They're trying to make some adaptations here, right? Like they know kind of what worked, what didn't on the first time around. They've got the hatches that they can open more effectively this time. One of the issues that I think they had was they were a little slow on the roll there with Rice getting the Habana into position. So now you're adding Asian here with the capability of just popping up himself, give you some coverage with the smokes. Looking too at the rover positions here from TEMPR White. Good early kill by Drix again. I mean, honestly, if they are not careful about putting a spy on Drix, Happy, he seems to find early kills pretty consistently. Not from Big Tower that time, but just, you know, from wandering around on the first floor.
He was 9-1 at one point, so it's been a bit of a rough defensive half for him. However, like you said, you need to be careful. You cannot start to take him lightly. You cannot start to get a little lax with the amount of info that you're getting on his position. You need to be thorough about clearing some of these early spots, or else you're gonna lose an opening gunfight. Even if it is that one where you didn't get much of a chance to fight back, he just kind of shot at a wall in the right spot where he saw a melee. That's what's gonna happen. If you're not thorough and you're trying to do cheeky stuff like that, you can't get away with it against a player that talented. So now, halfway through the round, TEMPR White have an advantage on this bomb site with a pretty unorthodox way of holding it, might I add. They've got Schmitty or Schmink playing the pillar area as Vigil, so the drone info isn't going to be as good, and that's a lot of what SBL are relying on for this late round. They've still got 9 of their 10 drones alive, but having the Vigil up is going to make that a little bit less effective because you won't be able to tell exactly where he's trying to hold, and thus it'll be a little harder for you to, obviously, deal with that position. Yes, he's normally known as a roamer, but he'll be able to help out on site too as we reach this final minute.
Spiff now pushing up. Spiff, the real scary person here, the raid boss in the lobby at the moment. He'll find one. He just slow walks into it in a crouch as well. A pure reflex test by Spiff, and he wins both. Fortunately, his teammates aren't there to quite follow up. Finally, Rice gets in on the action. Rice will pick up a second one. That's some great supporting play there from Rice. All down to HUD. HUD catches Rice on a pump fake. Rice saw no one and then saw someone. The frag grenade rolling in will not bring HUD down, but in a 1v1 versus Spiff, do you favor the chances? You don't. He goes back to the same trick he used in Freezer. He just crouches and slow walks it. Wild. Madness.
Asian is so right. That is a crazy scoreboard. I don't like, this is just the weirdest scoreboard ever. So Spiff has 20 kills. Last I saw, Rice had 11, and then it's 3, 2, and 2. And nobody other than Spiff and Rice got kills in that last round. This is an outstanding effort from those two to just do everything, and it's kind of working. Like, they're just taking space, taking fights, taking charge of the entire lobby, and nobody can stop them on the other team. They are taking all of the initiative. TEMPR White wanted some initiative, and it's safe to say right now, Spiff is moving like Oppenheimer. He is blowing up their entire quadrant.
Yeah, no, he Oppenheimer jokes. Oh, boy.
It was you may not understand, but it was also a reference to something else. But yeah,
I'm probably too old. I mean, I get Oppenheimer, obviously, but I'm too old. Never saw it anyway. Probably not the time to be discussing the various merits of the Nolan films here with on our match point, as Team SBL has just found the can opener and opened up a big old can of whoop ass all over TEMPR White here in these last couple of rounds. Specifically Spiff, that's the name of the can opener right there. It's absolutely wild because you kind of get the feeling that that's maybe the driving factor for why SBL is winning right now. I don't know that they're necessarily outplaying their TEMPR White opponents, because you saw right there, if it hadn't been for Spiff picking up those 2 kills in Freezer, it would not like the rest of SBL was really stepping up to the plate. Rice did finally get involved, but here we go. Match point round. SBL, they're providing the tempo, they're providing the aggression, they're enabling Spiff, and that's all they need to do right here, Happy, in order to get these W's on the board.
Also enabling Poison. He's on Blitz this time around. They banned out his Montaigne, so maybe he's still a little cranky about that. But well, you can always pick a different shield operator, and so that's going to help quite a lot in getting some early presence inside of the map, and especially on the same floor as the bomb site. This last round, yes, they were doing a great job with Spiff and Rice, just walking forward and killing everyone, but it couldn't hurt to have some of that control earlier, or have another focus that the defense needs to have, or something else that the defense needs to stare at actively that isn't just Spiff or Rice. And, well, that's Poison on Blitz, who'll just be running them down, and obviously, with the great team play that SBL has, they'll be threatening multiple angles at the same time as the Blitz is trying to chugga-chugga-choo-choo his way into the bomb site, and it will be very annoying, in theory, for TEMPR White to deal with.
In theory. And TEMPR White, nobody's died yet. I'll give them that. I mean, they played this pretty cagely to maintain everybody alive here into the last minute. It's looking like a pretty standard end of round for Basement. The problem is, though, and I will say this, Poison is playing Blitz. I want to call him Blitz every time. No, he is Blitz. I get him so confused with Bandit because Bandit has a lightning symbol. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, Blitz is down here, and that's going to make a huge difference difference here, right? With the flashes from the shield. I don't know that they have really anything that is particularly well set up to deal with that. Surely the smoke will try for it, but Poison just rushes right to the door. Okay, the second smoke canister coming in. That's going to force some movement here. Drixus will pick up 2. He's got Rice, he's got Asian, and the Smitty shuts down Smith. Nick tries to salvage this, but there you go. Poison getting gunned down after being introduced to the smoke canisters, and a solid defensive hold there for the members of TEMPR White.
Yeah, Poison's stuck in a 4-on-1. Not only is that a hard spot to win as a blitz or any shield operator, but if you are a blitz and you're left in a 4-on-1, I'm not going to say Poison played it wrong, because it was an awkward situation, but that is a telltale sign that something has gone horribly wrong in the round, and you are not at all ending up with the conclusion that you had planned from the beginning. And in that case, it was just they tried to run through, they ran into the gas canister, and they weren't accounting for that. A pretty simple thing to account for, so not sure what happened, but you could say that Poison got cold feet. You could say that his team tried to do too much too quickly, and he was failed as the blitz up, and it wasn't really his fault. Whatever you want to say, it's very safe to say that, again, blitz up against the world is never what you wanted as your last player alive.
10 seconds to
No, it's
insertion.
not. It was never supposed to be this way.
5 seconds
That's
left.
never what I wanted. I mean, it was good read by TEMPR White, and they did a good job of holding their sort of defensive positions right there and eating up the attack that SBL was rushing into them, right? And I think that was the key thing right there. It was definitely a rush from SBL, and I think TEMPR White predicted that and handled it accordingly. Now you're seeing what I would argue is almost close to a setup for another kind of weird opening here. And Spiff, not going to waste any time, finds HUD immediately in
my
Big
gosh.
Tower. That's Drace's spot. You can't put anybody else up there, or they get gunned down immediately. You
Wait,
have to have Drix. And the lesson has been learned. Poor HUD getting gunned down. And that means Big Tower control with a soft open wall, by the way, is entirely in favor now, I think, of SBL. I'll have to double check that wall if we see it again, but the pressure now
Yeah,
being
it still
applied
should
from
be
the
open.
armory side from Asian.
I'm not sure why we're playing an Echo if that's what we're going to do and that's where we're going to play early on. Drix trying to take an early fight against Rice. Both a couple very skilled players, as we've seen multiple times today, but not a single one will land the shot. Not a diss to either. Very awkward gunfight,
Recovered the bomb
but still,
diffuser.
nobody's going to land any damage. Hectic is here to support his teammate, though, and Rice does not have that same luxury of a supportive teammate, because TEMPR White understand this is a kill that would really help if they could get this back. That brings your man advantage back. However, you can only allocate 2 players, half of your still alive team, to that area of the map for so long. So he says, you know what, come over here. If we get an opportunity the next 10-15 seconds, we'll be able to double team this guy and get that kill back. It's not the end of the world if we can. And now SBL trying to aggress in different areas, and somehow Spiff doesn't even need to see anything, and he's still getting kills. He's up to 22.
Attackers have
Yeah,
recovered their
Poison bringing the leadership, the creative strategy of Spiff, go kill. And it's working out because they just point him in the general direction of the enemy with an LMG in hand, and he collects death like he's collecting Pokemon cards. It's brutal here. Rice firing in. These are just pure intel to help with the support of the attack on the other side. Hectic will find Asian, but who else? Spiff jumping in. Great play back on the other side. Spiff is down. Hectic's holding it together. A 2v1 now. Poison, the only one left alive. He snuck past that F-Naught and into the heart of things, but he's only 2-8, and
What?
Hectic makes it 2-9.
Poison, man, he was in the bees. I don't know if that ping was live or not. It sounded like he was moving up. There was a ping where the guy was. That may not have been updated in a while. That might have just been a coincidence. It's very funny, though, if he just didn't acknowledge the ping that could have told him exactly where he was supposed to look. However, we're not going to put that on him. He's stuck in a pretty rough spot in a 1-on-2. And now, why haven't we paused? Someone's not in the lobby. Why didn't we pause that?
Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs.
So, connection issues. Never mind. Hectic is here. We're still all right. And he was given Wamai. Either a visual bug or just a weird coincidence that he ended up with a pretty good operator for this situation. and we don't have to rehost. Everyone breathe a sigh of relief.
Attackers
But
need to locate and
still,
defuse as many bombs.
that last round from SBL subpar. Yet another round where it feels like their only win con is Spiff. He gets 2 kills. Everybody else on the team only got 1 combined, and they're not able to make anything happen in spite of the many opportunities that they had with that 5-on-3 man advantage.
You know, I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised because what seems to be happening, at least on those last 2 rounds, was things were going pretty swimmingly for SBL, and then they get into the last like 30 seconds or so of just pure
10 seconds
chaos.
left.
And out of that chaos, they never really seem to create
5
a
seconds to
win.
go.
You know what I mean? You look at the rounds where they won, and it's far, I don't want to say it's
Attackers' objective is
methodical
to
because they've
locate a bomb
definitely
and
won
defuse
some
it.
chaotic match
Attackers' bomb
ends,
diffuser has
but
been
those
found.
last 2 in
Attackers
particular
recovered
were
the
so
diffuser.
weird, and the team is all over the place, and they'll get an initial couple of picks. Certainly, I mean, Spiff, look at that score line, 23-8. He's getting picks, but they won't finish off like 1 or 2 defenders. It's like the attack culminates before they've killed everyone, and then TEMPR White just jumps back in the opposite direction and shuts them down. It's been a very interesting kind of swing back and forth in that regard, and it's making it really hard for me to kind of get a good read here, Happy, on how this one's gonna end.
Yeah, it's a very interesting overtime scenario because this is a case where nobody has a super reliable bomb site. Nobody has a super reliable site to attack. It just kind of feels like anyone can win any given round. And that's a lot more interesting than most Oregon games in the current meta, given how defender-sided it is as a map and how defender-sided it is given the number of operators that you can bring to make it even more so. Schmink is in Big Tower, still yet to be cleared, and now he's given up his position. So it's up to SBL to try and clear him out here. However, he does have some support from Blue Stairs. That's HUD, who's on the bottom side, and Schmink is up top. Asian ready for the aggression from below, but not doing anything actively about the player up top, and now Drix is going to activate in lobby and try and catch them off guard from behind. This is an outstanding defense from TEMPR White to literally put it back in their faces. And now SBL, a man down, still with someone stuck in T2 that they haven't cleared out, and they may be wrongfully assuming that isn't a problem they have to deal with anymore.
Here's a real test of the grid of SBL. You've lost Spiff.
No.
Will you lose the round? You've lost Poison as well. And TEMPR White might just pull this one off. That said, here comes SBL on the attack back. Asian and Nick both picking up their respective kills. They managed to weed out a lot of defenders here. So 3-3, all even here for the last minute of the round. The exact kind of set piece that you want to go into here in this overtime round of a best of 1. You've got some good guns. You've got some utility. The Buck shotgun not going to be as valuable as it possibly could be, but you can make some work with the Roteros. You see Floose picking one off right there. Floose is stuck out. He actually has to break his way back in through the Kiba barrier to regroup with the rest of the team. But these smoke canisters are going to become more and more important. He's got 3 whole smokes left here, and the members of SBL are splitting up, and I think that's a very dangerous choice at this stage of the round. Asian coming in here will actually be walled off. The smoke's coming in from Rice, clearing the way forward. Rice walking down the stairs into the basement, entering, but none of the defenders are offering themselves up for easy shots. Drixis is all the way back down the corridor. They are forcing ugly engagements here. 5 seconds left, and finally Rice will be in a position to get the diffuser down, but Asian has done enough, and Nick will swing in and covering the plants. They will get the win. A solid final attack by SBL, and them showing, I think, right there, their veteran qualities on display.
Team SBL showing that, in fact, the SBL does not stand for Spiff Better Live, because they can do just fine even if he goes down very first of anybody in the lobby. And they managed to pull it back, even though they were in such a strange spot, even though, like you said, they had to force some uncomfortable gunfights. TEMPR just kind of falling off a little bit too much, not actively holding anything. The player in Freezer not allowed to continue to play there to watch that cross. They didn't even smoke it off. They just ran by, and there was no active threat from the player in Freezer. We talked so much about how that completely changed the SBL defense when they were in that basement site, but now that TEMPR are down there, the Freezer player doesn't have the same impact because he just misplayed it even just slightly at the wrong time. and let them plant in the spot that is oh so safe. As long as you have the cross from Laundry covered, they had that cover just fine. And SBL reach overtime match point.
And just a little note here from the Department of Stats here at XGS. Spiff has broke the XGS single game kill record here, or single map kill record here, on Oregon. Sitting at 23-9 right now, and he's got the potential to go even higher. So to maybe put that record well out of reach for a normal human. As we all know, Spiff was designed in a lab to get kills on Oregon, so that it kind of explains the success. So a very impressive achievement right there. As TEMPR White tries to win this one back on the attack. And before you say they're done and dusted because it's an Oregon defense, they're going to have to win. Well, they did pretty well on the attack, at least initially. We'll see how much SBL has learned from those early round losses to swing this one back around.
Now they're on the defensive end, in theory favored. However, across the day, we've been shown that very much can be not the case. Across this map, it's just kind of been a coin toss, basically, as regulation quite literally did go 50-50 both sides. So, again, literal coin toss. In terms of whether or not you think it favorable, SBL did figure out how to play this site quite effectively, though, their third time around. So, you just try and keep Freezer player alive, make sure he doesn't die, make sure that you're, pushing the aggression back in their faces, using that proper utility. They've also got Goyo this time as well, which is a great adaptation. I love to see that from SBL, because TEMPR White have been waiting until the very last second. And last round, they themselves waited until the very last second. It's been that kind of game. So, bring even more time delay, even more, to waste the precious seconds off the attacker's time, and that's going to make things all the easier for you once it gets to the later stages of that round. However, HUD currently outside of blue. I don't know if he's been accounted for. So TEMPR are trying to mix things up and catch this defense off.
They are. Drix is looking in for a top floor drop down. Or I should say a drop down through the hatch, not necessarily the top floor. Hectic here, rotating around as well. The pressure slowly mounting, and wouldn't you have guessed it here, Happy? It's going to be a last-minute firefight. Absolute chaos on the bomb site. That's what we're living for here. Spiff, the man with the plan, he's waiting around the freezer entrance as Drix starts to walk in. Not liking the odds there necessarily for old Drixus, as Floos here is just playing off the basement stairs, trying to cause some havoc down below. Floos now rotating position here, seeing if they pop a defender out of spot. 20 seconds left on the clock.
Nice.
HUD swings, finds Rice. Good kill early on. Might be enough to keep the team in this. Here comes Floos from the other side.
No.
He found Spiff. Oh, it's Drixus who finds Spiff. Poison, though, immediately jumping back in, and suddenly it's a 4-1. And the violence comes so fast and so furious at the end of these rounds, it's hard for me to even keep track.
HUD did end up being the game changer after all. That one attempt at mixing up the defense works perfectly. You kill that player in chair corner, and just like that, nobody is actively threatening you towards pillar or E-box or blue at all. You have all that control for yourselves, and you can start to enclose in on the bomb site. And we have seen that work time and time again through this game. A lot of different places in control of the attack. SBL had freezer, pillar, and the subsequent hallway, E-box, and that avenue into the bomb site. Blue, they were just completely coming from every single different angle. It was just... SBL were trapped in a site of their own creation, so to say. And they're just not doing anything actively enough to prevent that from happening. TEMPR White were just allowed to have all that, and it's all because HUD activates at the right time, and it gets that blue control that SBL didn't even think was going to be a problem. HUD sat out there for like 2 whole minutes waiting for his moment to strike, and in this case, patience very much rewarded.
5 seconds remaining.
Well, I thought we might have seen SBL put it to bed. We did not. They are back over onto the attacking side now. And they need Spiff. I hate to say it, but they need Spiff to pop off, because these last 2 rounds, he's been very quiet. He's gone back to being quiet. We do not want that anymore. We want him to start getting kills if we're an SPL fan.
Gone
We
back
need it,
to.
dare I say.
Was he ever quiet in the first place? That implies that he was quiet to begin with.
Maybe round one. Good point, actually. You caught me out right there. Yeah, he was never that quiet. So we'll
I'm not trying to make
we'll need
you.
a little
I'm
bit
just
more
trying
of the
to.
magic though. He's got to find his momentum again because it does feel like
Yeah.
he set that record and then he stopped. So
I'm not,
come on, poke him
not
with a
trying to.
stick, Poison. Poke him with a stick.
I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just trying to kind of draw attention to how good of a game it's been from Spiff. Even in the best games in the world, from the best players in the world, you still see a couple of rounds where they're kind of going quiet. And Spiff, up until now, hadn't really had that. If he had, his team had been able to pick it up. But, starting to happen. Don't want to put too much focus on one player, though. The whole team as a whole, the whole team has gone quiet. Poison's only 3-11 on the day. Nick and Asian have infrequently stepped up at best. They were able to make a lot happen in that one round where they needed to on that basement attack to start off OT. But now they have to do it again. Same exact site, same exact start as well. No one really doing anything too aggressively.
Located by attackers.
And TEMPR White this time not getting over-aggressive towards tower. Instead, they are just playing the site very normally, hoping that last round will set a precedent that they can get aggressive, and that'll make SBL slower in the process. Not really, though. Still making all the progress they've ever made.
I was gonna say, yeah, feel free to analyze as much as you want here because we've got like a good at least 2.5 minutes of podcasting time before violence starts in any one of these given rounds. So do whatever, talk about whatever you need to talk about because yeah, it's building up to another classic ender here where they're just waiting and waiting and waiting to get things started. Everybody moving into position here from SBL. Less than a minute left of playtime. You can see the intended drops coming through. Rice looking into the E-box hatch, has the smokes, has some fire to throw in there as well. He's already shot one firebolt. He's considering shooting a second, opening up more angles, and here's the drop. It's not preceded by smoke. It's not preceded by smoke. HUD annihilates them in the E-box and then casually flicks over to headshot Asian on the stairs as if it's the easiest thing in the world to pull off a triple kill. And that breaks the back of this SBL attack here. 16 seconds left. Spiff trying to get it done with the super shotty.
Oh, wait a minute.
He comes in with the gun instead. Him and Nick are trying to make it work, but the shotgun waiting on the other side. And it's a 1v1. 6 seconds left. Nick gets a shot in the back on Schmitty. Are you kidding me? Talk about siege timing to win this match.
Schmink, man. What are you doing? You're going full sprint in a one-on-one? What? Are we? I don't. You can't. That long of a game takes down to the very last second. We wait all that time, and it concludes with someone getting shot in the back full sprinting.
No, it can't have ended that way. It didn't.
It had to. It had to. You'll understand. It had to. That's the only way these games can end.
That was wild. That was the last thing I expected on that. I thought we were going to have them both like roll the corner. Maybe we'd even get a mutual kill right there, but no.
I thought the shotgun was going to do it.
Yeah, that's such a, and my heart going out right there because that's a difficult space to be, right? Like, I get the idea of what he was trying to do. I think he just misread where his opponent was, because if he had been able to rotate around like that into bunker, he might have burned the remaining time off the clock and survived it, right? Like, that was the plan, I think, and unfortunately just really bad timing, a poor call and a lack of information combining there. But I mean, looking at that map overall, I will say it was chaotic and a little bit of disjointed, but it certainly had its entertaining moments. They're happy, and of course, obviously Spiff breaking the XGS single map kill record with a whopping, what was it at the end, 24 kills I think that he pulled out there by the time it was over.
At least 24. I think he might have tacked the 25th on, but not 100% on that. We'll get a chance to look at it just after this, at the end of the replay. Hopefully we can see that last kill. It was, he's got 23 here. Oh, I still got a little bit, so I can't really do what I was planning on doing, but yeah. So, and that's a comeback, by the way, for SBL from a 5-on-2, where Nick absolutely steps up when his team needed it most. A 4K in that last round, and a huge performance, because I was making jokes, Spiff better live, blah, blah, blah. SBL just entirely relying on him. But, man, a great time for Nick to step up in that
Yeah.
2v5. I was thinking to myself, if anyone can do it, Spiff, it's actually Nick. He could do it too. Making sure you know that everybody on that team's still just as much of a threat as they were through the season of Element. And by the skin of their teeth, SBL are able to move on from a game that we honestly had them more drastically favored in. So I do want to say congrats to TEMPR on a very hard-fought matchup.
Yeah, TEMPR White looked great. I mean, in the chaos of that map, right? They got the kills that they needed. They had some good defensive setups. They were matching a, on paper, much stronger team, right? Blow for blow. You never felt like there was a moment where, except for maybe a 3 straight run, I think there was, you never felt like there was a moment where SBL was running away with that match. But yeah, we got the match that we were anticipating, which will be the next match on the channel. It's going to be SBL versus X Osiris. We didn't quite get there in the way that we thought we were going to get there, but we did get that match, and it'll be coming up for you right after this commercial break.